Good morning, everybody. Well, it's spring, sort of. This week we're going to begin, we're really going to continue what we started in the past week, and that is a more extensive discussion of the concepts of jurisdiction and venue. And into that discussion, we're also throwing a third concept, which is known as the case and controversy requirement. Here is how those three concepts relate to each other. When you are faced with something that has happened in your life or in the life of a client or in the life of someone whose life you're investigating if you're a law enforcement officer, the first thing that you have to do is try to determine exactly what has happened or whether anything that the law offers a remedy for has happened. Because in order for the law to get involved in solving a problem, something has to have already occurred for which the law offers a remedy. And let me put that in simpler terms. Let's say that you are just sitting around your house and you're speculating on, whether it would be a violation of the law if you were to set fire to your couch. And so, in order to determine whether that's a violation of the law, you decide to go to court and ask a judge to answer that question for you. Well, will a judge do that? No. Why? Because nothing has actually happened. You haven't set fire to your couch yet. You're just speculating on whether that would be a crime. The law doesn't care about what you're guessing or what you are thinking about doing. The law cares about what you have already done. So, that is the case and controversy requirement in the American court system. You can't get into court, in other words, until something has already happened. The courts are not going to get involved to try to prevent you from doing something or to help you guess whether your contemplated actions would be legal or illegal. The court is only going to get involved when something has already happened. Okay, that's case and controversy. Let me enunciate clearly there. The other two concepts that we're continuing that you already know about are jurisdiction and venue. So let's say that you're faced with an automobile accident. Two cars have crashed into each other on a busy highway. Legal issues, among other things, are involved when that happens. Sometimes a crime has occurred. Perhaps one of the persons was speeding or driving under the influence of alcohol. Perhaps one was changing lanes without signaling or otherwise operating a vehicle recklessly. So there may be criminal implications. Maybe both vehicles were damaged or people were injured. And then there may be also civil implications there. So several things need to be asked in relation to this automobile accident. If we're talking about violations of civil law, we have to ask, we always have to ask this, whether it's civil or criminal. Where did this take place? What state were we in? What highway was it on? What county? What city? The second thing is, what are we trying to achieve by taking this case to court? Are we trying to be compensated for loss? Are we trying, in other words, to get money to repair a car or to pay medical bills? Or, on the other hand, are we trying to punish somebody for criminal action? Maybe somebody was driving under the influence of alcohol and you want to bring it home to them in a very real way that that's a crime and we want to punish them for it so they won't do it again or so that other people will see what's happened and not do it. In other words, what is the goal? So that is how we divide the civil law from the criminal law. If the goal is compensation, then you turn to the civil law for a remedy. If the goal is punishment, you turn to the criminal law. And that is not an either-or proposition. Very often, especially when we're talking about automobile accidents, both kinds of law will be implicated. You'll have both civil actions that come out of this car accident, and you'll have a criminal charge as well. Okay, then let's go over where we go to court. If we're talking about the criminal actions that come out of a car accident, what happens is that crime will be tried where the accident occurred. So if you have a car accident that occurred in, let's say Wake County, North Carolina, then the criminal action that will come out of that car accident will be tried in Wake County, North Carolina. If you have a civil action that comes out of this Wake County, North Carolina car accident, then the civil action might be tried in Wake County, North Carolina, but it might also be tried wherever the defendant, the person responsible for the accident, lives. So let's say that the accident occurred on an interstate highway and the defendant is from, Richmond, Virginia. Then the defendant might be sued in Richmond, Virginia, or might be sued in Wake County, North Carolina, or might be sued where the plaintiff, the person who was injured, lives, which might be somewhere else entirely. So in civil actions, you have to look for more than just the place where the accident occurred. You have to look at where the parties live, where the most convenient place to sue the defendant might be, which, by the way, is always going to include where the defendant lives. There are several factors that go into it. But in a criminal action, really, it's very simple. Where did this crime take place? It took place in Wake County, North Carolina, so that's where the criminal action will be tried. In our final project scenario, we have a similar kind of situation. We have a bank robbery that takes place in Washington, D.C. Now, there are several complications to this. One is determining what the crime is. Well, it's a bank robbery. Where did it take place? It took place in Washington, D.C. Now, there are a couple of clues in that, and you will find out what these clues are as you start to do your research. But keep in mind as you're doing it that Washington, D.C. stands for the District of Columbia. The District of Columbia is a federal district. It is not a part of any state. That is clue number one. Clue number two is that the crime is a bank robbery. Bank robbery is a very special crime because it is dealt with differently from many other crimes. It's not state-specific. It is a federal crime, always. Doesn't matter where it takes place. If you have a bank that's robbed in Tucson, Arizona, it's going to be tried in a federal court because bank robbery is a federal crime. That is, the only exception to that are those very, very rare banks that are purely state banks and that are not FDIC insured. And I'm not even sure we have any of those banks anymore, to be honest with you. Almost all banks are insured by the federal government. If they are, and they are robbed, then the robbery of that bank is a crime, is a federal crime. Keep that in mind. That's a big, big hint as to how you're going to address this final project. This week, you're going to be doing your first milestone, which is a stepping stone toward the completion of the final project. Milestone One asks that you analyze the structure of the state and the federal court systems, and that you determine how jurisdiction and venue are handled in those state and federal courts. Now, I've just given you a great big hint as to which kind of court's going to preside over our final project case, but Milestone One asks you to be more speculative, more theoretical than actual, and answer the question of how jurisdiction would be determined in the state court systems, and you can use your own state as an example if you want to, and how it is determined in the federal court system. The discussion board asks you to do something entirely unrelated, really, to our final project, and that is to kind of project yourself into the future a little bit and talk about the kinds of specialty courts, juvenile court, tax court, military court, marine court, whatever kind of court. There are all kinds of specialty courts in various states. Which kind of court are you most likely to be involved with in your future career or in your personal life? Or if you don't want to talk about your personal life or you're not sure about your career yet, just pick a specialty court and discuss the sorts of cases that it handles and the kinds of incidents that might give rise to an involvement with that sort of specialty court. Then you get to just talk about that in the discussion board and then reply to your classmates as they discuss the specialty courts that they've chosen to talk about. I've gone over my normal 10-minute limit on this video already. We're almost at 11 minutes. So I will be quiet and hope that I get some really good comments from you on the discussion board, as I have been doing in the last couple of weeks. By the way, this is really a good class. You guys are good. You write well, you think well. I've really enjoyed reading your submissions so far, and I hope that continues as we go along. Best of luck to you, and get out in the sunshine when you have time. Bye.